especially with some of the prettier things that we make, or with spalted woods, black lines running through them. Well, those are usually, spalting is the process of rotting, and it gets very soft, and it tears out real easy, and it's like, where do you go? Charles was saying it makes it harder, it makes it so you don't get the tear out. And how we do that, the objective and how we do that is by impregnating the wood with a resin of some type. And how do you get the resin into the wood? You put it in a vacuum, and contrary to, you're not sucking the air out, but you're displacing the air. Basically, without getting boring physics, I know I've got some engineers.
Yourself there now without saying that.
In like weather, you hear the weatherman always talking about low pressure and high pressure, and that's what generates the wind. Well, it's the same thing. You're going to create a low pressure up in the top of this cylinder, and the air inside the wood that you put in the bottom here is under a higher pressure. So when you take the high pressure goes to low pressure, and the air comes out. But you got to get as much of it out as you possibly can. Sometimes it takes an hour or two. Sometimes you go to bed and wonder if it's ever going to get done. And you try to listen to the vacuum pump all night long. But sometimes it does take quite a while. The drier the wood, the faster. I'm going to go into that. I'm kind of going through the outline here. Then we're going to get into details. A vacuum. Got two different measurements for vacuum. You got you got inches of mercury, and you got microns. Guys in the heating and air conditioning career use microns, but we use, and the weather service uses inches of mercury. Okay? Theoretically, at sea level, the highest vacuum you'll get is 29.92 inches of mercury. Cannot get any better. That's it, period. You lose about a half an inch for every 1 inch for about every 1,000 feet of elevation. Okay? So, Denver, Colorado, 5,000 feet above sea level, you will lose 5 inches of mercury. Your best you're going to be able to do is right around 24.92 inches of mercury. So if you move to Denver and try to stabilize, and hey, I can't get the kind of vacuum I was getting in Little Rock, Arkansas, you're not. It's not going to happen. If you see online that you have to get 29 inches of mercury, down here you got to get as close as you can, but in Denver you do not. There's not going to be any difference in the result. Okay? Here where I live in Cabot, the best I'm going to get is 29.41 inches of mercury. Jacksonville, you get a little bit better, it's 29.48. That's just a difference in elevation. If you get into stabilizing, you can go to Turntech's website. That's the guy that makes the resin that I use. He's got a calculator on there, and you can get your GPS, get your exact elevation out. Plug it in, and that thing will tell you how much you can expect to get. So don't worry about it if it says you can't get 29. It's not a big deal if you live in. Tom lives up in Latona. That's probably another couple hundred feet above we are here. He won't be able to, probably just barely be able to get 29 theoretical maximum. Okay? So you don't need to worry about it. Just get to that point and don't worry about it. Get as close as you can. Okay? Closing, I'm going to demonstrate something here real quick. Demonstrating, we were just talking about going from high pressure to low pressure. That's not the gloves I tied these off and tied a knot in this the other day. Okay? That's air pressure from Cabot, Arkansas on the inside of that glove. Okay? This is the process we're blowing the air out of the wood. Let me turn around so I can see the gauge that I'm spinning around to you. You know what? Helps a whole lot if you hook the hose up to the pump. When I'm not getting anything, I'm going,
I wasn't seeing any change.
gotta hook that up.
Sounds a little
That
different.
sounds good. Yeah. See the plug moving? We're up about 25 inches of mercury. Top of that glove is at 25 inches of mercury, almost a vacuum, but not quite. The glove is air pressure in the cabin. So that's your piece of wood. That's how the air comes out. I brought this bag of chips. Borrowed them from Brenda. She had them on the counter the other day. I stole them from her. Not for a snack, but did you ever take a bag of chips in your car, Bob, when you're going up in the Rocky Mountain? No? Those are probably packaged in plain.
You lost your pipe on water again.
It's the same thing. That's how the air comes out of the wood. It just blows up. We've had them almost burst on us in the car.
That sure is a complicated way to open a bag of potato chips.
It is. If they'd have opened it, I'd have had a snack. And actually, they did open it. Anybody want a chip? Sorry, Brenda. You don't have lunch. You don't have a snack for lunch tomorrow.
Don't chip out of this thing.
Yeah, like I was saying, you lose about 1 inch of pressure for every 1,000 feet. So if you do the math, here in Jacksonville, Arkansas, okay, the highest you're going to get is 29.48 inches of mercury. That's at perfect vacuum, okay? If your pump and system can only draw 28 inches of mercury at best, you're only going to get about 85% penetration of resin. You got to get you got to get as close to that number as you can, right? So less vacuum, it's even less resin that's going to get in the wood. Don't matter how long you leave it under pressure, it's just not going to happen. You got to get all that air out, or as much as possible. And how you tell that, you'll see bubbles here in a little bit, but it's the air coming out of the wood. And I'm not going to use resin today, I'm just going to use water. Resin is $90 a gallon, and I don't have the time to do a complete thing, so I'm not going to waste the resin. Okay? See where I'm at. Now, what it's going to look like when you do that, it's going to look like the water is boiling, but it's actually not boiling. What's the, Mr. Engineer Physics guy, what's boiling? What's the definition of boiling?
Transition from liquid to vapor, standard temperature and pressure, it's 100 degrees Celsius.
At sea level, what's water boil at?
212.
That's
At how much?
100
degrees Celsius. Standard temperature and pressure.
200,
is
1200.
Sea level.
Yeah, right.
Oh, who uses Fahrenheit anymore?
Ladies do in the kitchen. Okay. But when you get an elevation, When you get it in a vacuum, guess what? It boils at a whole lot less. I get this water to boil at room temperature. Potato chips looking at the bottom.
See what happens.
Cooked potato chips. That's about 28 inches of mercury, and that water's boiling. You can come up here and touch this.
You can put an ice cube in it and still do that.
That's cold. You touch that boiling on your stove, you're in trouble.
That's cold?
It's cold. You touch it.
Unbelievable.
It's cold. I mean, I couldn't hold it if it wasn't. That's cold.
So is it
That's
actually
changing
boiling?
the water to a vapor.
It is actually changing from water,
Of course.
liquid to,
It is changing
Well,
from
it's
one to
boiling,
the
and
other.
this is-
Big
It
rise
is
in
changing
water.
its state, it just doesn't do it by heat.
yes.
What happens to that vapor?
Okay.
Don't want to do that too long, because you don't want to suck the water up into your pump.
Yep, I had to replace a vacuum truck on account of that. So, resonant in it.
We'll leave them tips in there, and they can hurt nothing like a little bit later. All right, what do we use to do this? You got 3 different types of vacuum pumps. Who has a vacuum chucking system in the shop? What kind of pump do you use?
Venturi.
Diaphragm,
HVAC.
the oil? There's 3 different types of vacuum pumps. You got your diaphragm, which is what most systems use for vacuum chucking. Pretty much the most vacuum you'll get out of those is about 25 inches of mercury. Not good for, it's definitely not good for doing this. Good for holding a piece of wood to a chuck, but that's about it. The other kind is a Venturi system. Those are ones you can buy at Harbor Freight, or you can buy them online too. It's run by the Venturi effect, with compressed air going by an opening in the, I don't know all the physics and all that stuff behind it, but it works. And you can get close. You can get between 28 and 29 inches of mercury. Problem is, your compressor's running. And if you have to run this for 15 hours, that compressor's cycling and you're doing this. Okay, and if it's humid outside and that air is getting sucked into the compressor, it's gonna freeze up and you can run a couple $100 compressor.
So that doesn't maintain the pressure you have in there?
This will,
It will.
this will. This is called a
Rotary
rotary
Rotary vane pump.
rotary vane compressor. You
Is
can
up the
tell
pressure
which
and
one's a
Shut
rotary.
it off and
What's that?
you can get up the pressure and shut your motor off?
No. I'll explain that, I'll explain why in a minute. But you can't do that. You can't do that. You can tell the difference in the pump by the glass, because it's gonna be a window in the front. In the front, it's gonna have oil in it. Okay? There's 2 things to remember about these kind of pumps. They get warm. They get warm to touch. You're gonna touch it. If you do this, you're gonna touch it and you're gonna go, that's hot. I'm gonna blow my pump up, I'm gonna turn it off. Well, they're made to run like that. Don't turn them off. They're fine, but they will get up around 200 degrees. Okay? You gotta kind of remember that temperature, because that's important to the resin. Okay? See where I'm going too fast, and I'm forgetting where I'm at. All right, your vacuum chamber. There's several on the market, you'll see some. Charles brought in one that's made out of looks like a crawfish pot or a pot, made out of a steel cooker pot, okay? Those are fine and those will work, they'll work fine. And you can get a good sized piece of wood in there, but Charles will come up and show you in a minute, but you got a piece of clear glass on top. I don't know if it's glass or plexiglass.
It's glass.
It's glass. You've got to be able to see inside there. Why do you think you have to see inside there? You're gonna have to know when the bubbles stop. If that's got another metal top on it, you can't see inside it, it just gets worse. Okay, this one here, best to use glass, or they make, if you gotta build your own glass or get PVC, clear PVC, it'll work fine. You gotta find a bottom for it. They're kind of tricky. Charles has got one he built here, I'll show you in a second. He's found a nice flat bottom for it, which, that was the trick, wasn't it?
The bottom and the lid were made, you can make them.
Say, they're hard to find, they're hard to buy them, the flat lid and the flat bottom, but he made them. Okay. You can buy one, the guy that I get the resin from, Termtex, he makes them. You can buy them from him, but his will, depending on the size, $150 to $102 or $200 or higher, depending from other people.
I use a big old pickle jar for mine.
You can use a
You
pickle
can-
jar.
You can find them with big lids over Sam's.
Yep, you can use a pickle jar. But you got, you know, I guarantee you Atkins Pickle or whoever is not gonna guarantee that that's not gonna blow up on us.
And
You
yeah,
gotta be, no, it hadn't yet, but you gotta be careful. And that's why you use a round physics, the pressure. There's a lot of pressure on this. You don't think that, but when you got this under vacuum, normal pressure is 14 point something pounds per square inch. And you put that much pressure over that area, because it's trying to get in. It's a lot of, that's a lot of pressure going up against that glass. So you don't want to drop, gosh, you drop that or something hits it and it breaks. It's gonna be not fun. Okay. The lid, that's probably 3/8 of an inch thick. I use an acrylic. I don't know what Charles used his out of, but you have people that use, I'm trying to find that real thin. It's like maybe not even a 1/4 inch, maybe 3/16 of an inch thick plexiglass. That's gonna do that. There's a lot of pressure in there. There's a lot of pressure on the outside of that trying to get in. Use that. Your vacuum gauge, if you build, use good brass fittings. Your gauge, not, I've got an oil-filled gauge here. That's not necessary. You can buy less expensive ones. I use this one because it was recommended, first off. Second, because, and the reason why it's good, it's got oil in it. If it's gonna hold that oil, what's it gonna keep out? Air. It's not gonna be leaking. Okay. Your gasket, I just cut a flat piece to match that. You'll see on Charles, he's got it cut out, got some silicone rubber in there. I just cut a piece of rubber to go on there. Don't use foam rubber. This is neoprene rubber. I guess it's what they use in wetsuits and whatnot, but it just makes it very good. See, you can see the ring it's making, especially on that side. You can see the ring. The only other piece of equipment you're really going to need is an oven, because you're going to have to cure this resin. This resin is heat cured. Okay? When you buy the resin, it's going to come in a gallon jug, just like that. Okay? As it sits, it's got about 1.5 years shelf life on it. This little bottle in there is activated. You don't add it till you're ready to use this gallon of stuff. Once you get this in there, it's ready to go. It gets activated by the heat. Okay? So when you're done, you're going to put it in an oven, and I'll kind of show you the steps on that. I didn't bring an oven with me, but because we're using water, there's no point in trying to cook it in an oven. But remember that 200-degree temperature of this? Your resin cures at 200 degrees. But it's got to be 200 degrees throughout that piece of wood. It will not cure until that whole piece of wood is 200 degrees. Then it's like that. Okay? So if you make an oops, and you get some of that resin sucked up, and it goes in here, when this is hot, you just ruin your pump. if it's not that hot yet, you can still save the pump. But when it gets hot like that, when you can't touch it, it's 200 degrees, it's done. Most pumps cost 150 to 200 bucks. That's a lot of money. All right.
I got a spare one.
Hmm?
I got a spare one full of resin maybe.
No,
It gets about, 15 inches now.
yeah, no good.
Ain't no
No
good.
good, no good. You don't have to, you know, the HVAC guys will change this oil out every time they're doing oil change after every use. Because we're pumping water into it, it's getting water in it, it's contaminating oil. You don't have to worry about doing that. About every 15 times you'll have to change the oil. Because you will get a little bit of stuff in there, but it's not gonna hurt until it starts to really accumulate. And it's like changing oil in a car, a little screw down here, pop it out, let it drain, put some more in. But the motor, the oil about, well, I just bought some, Brenda, for 20-something bucks for a couple quarts. So it's not your average motor oil.
Well, your oil will get cloudy too, won't it?
It will, it'll turn a,
When it gets cloudy, you better change it.
yeah, when it don't look clear like that, you need to change it. But I wouldn't wait for it to do that. I'd get change it on a regular basis. If you're using your pump a lot, I'd set up your little schedule and change it. Okay. The only other piece of equipment is your oven. You can use your oven in your house. I don't know how many wives around here would really appreciate that. There is sometimes, it's not bad, I've done it, but at times there's an odor that kind of floats through the house of pure plastic. It's not real bad, it's livable. For us woodworkers, it's no big deal, but those that are married to the ladies that aren't don't understand. Okay, but the best thing to get you convection toaster oven. Convection so that the heat moves and it heats pretty evenly. Because again, you want that whole piece of wood to get to 200 degrees.
And they're real cheap.
You can get a cheap one. You can spend a lot of money on one too, but you can get one for probably 40, 50 bucks. Go to a pawn shop or a garage sale, you can get one for 20, 30. Okay. The next step, let's move on to the processing of the wood, getting it ready to go. Gotta have dry wood. Cannot go down here like at the last meeting, there was some walnuts sitting down here off North Bailey. Picked up a couple pieces of that. All right, I want to take that home. I want to stabilize it because I want to put some threads in it to make a box. I ain't gonna do it. It's wet. It's got to be dry. As close to 100% as you can. Recommendation that I've received and from the experience trying it where it's not been dried that much or not dried wood, it just don't work. You've got to dry it. You think, Tom, we've been to your barn. You got some wood up on a shelf over there, been sitting there 10 years. Heck, you gave Brenda a piece of it last month. Is that dry enough?
Get about 7% moisture.
Well, it's probably going to be a little higher than that.
Could be, yeah.
With this
There's a term for it called equilibrium moisture content, a piece of wood. Wood sucks air from your environment. Average moisture content for a piece of wood in Arkansas is 14% moisture. You can't do it. You've got to dry. Even that piece of wood you think is dry, put in the oven at 220 degrees for 24 hours. May take a little less than that, may take 15 or 16, but I'm not going to take it out and weigh it every 30 minutes. I'm just 24 hours, 220 degrees. That's good enough.
Or you can vacuum it with your pot sitting on a blanket, heating blanket.
You can vacuum it, but it's going to take a long time.
Not if you have a heating pad cranked all the way up.
Can't you use a microwave?
No.
Why?
Because it's not equal. It heats from the inside out. To get it hot enough on the outside, you're going to start the wood on fire in the middle. That's good for driving a bowl blank, if you know, but if you use a piece of wood in the microwave to get it hot enough on the outside edges to do what you need it to do, you're gonna set the wood on fire. I know in my house that wouldn't be welcome, so I'm not doing it. Oily woods. Name some oily woods, guys.
Any tropical almost.
Yeah.
Cocobolo, woods like that do not stabilize. The oil, when you put this through the process, not only is the air gonna come out of the wood, but the oils are gonna come out. And it's gonna contaminate the resin that's in the tank with the blanks, and it won't cure. Not only that, but when you pour this resin out, because you can reuse it, you don't want to waste it. It's $90 a gallon, right? So if you've got 6 or 8 ounces in here, you're going to pour it in. Don't pour it into the new jug of the new stuff, but have you a separate jug that you can pour it into. You don't want to waste it. If that jug's half full and you're pouring that in there, what have you just done? You've contaminated everything that was in there. Not only did you lose them blanks, you lost a half a gallon. Okay? Oily woods are not going to stabilize. It's just not going to happen. You can stabilize soft woods, but like pines, spruces, things like that, but it takes a lot longer process. The process is the same, but you've got to, and I'll explain the soaking process here, but it takes a lot longer, a week. You got to let it soak in the resin for a week or more. But that's because of the cell makeup of the wood. It's just the difference. And even some hardwoods will give you trouble. Walnut doesn't like it. Walnut's not a oily wood, but it don't like stabilizing. Burls don't like stabilizing. I can't answer why, I don't know. I haven't tried it. But they won't stabilize. Or if they do, it's a very hard, long process to get it to do it. After you get the wood hot, it's cooked and it's ready to go and dry, take it out of the oven. Don't set it on the counter till it's cool enough to put in the tank with the resin. If you do that, what's going to happen? It's going to suck up that moisture in the air. I take and put them in a Rubbermaid container inside a Ziploc bag. It keeps the moisture, pretty much, you may get a little bit in there from the air in the bag and air in the Tupperware thing, but not enough to do anything. This wood here has been sitting in the oven for close to 24 hours.
Do you wrap all your wood in foil?
When I'm done. Yeah.
I mean, when you put it in the oven?
No, just lay it on sheet. Just lay it on
I've
sheet.
seen it done both ways.
You probably can. I just put a sheet of foil on the rack and just sit on it.
Keep all the smell from coming out.
That burning wood's fine. But we just did it the other day and didn't have any odor, did we? I didn't see. We just did this day before yesterday and there was no smell. Maybe because it was the wood, it's a spalted piece of maple and a couple pieces of elm.
John, after you dry it in the oven, could you put it in your vacuum chamber and pull a vacuum on it? No resin.
Cannot be any resin in
Yeah, but keep pulling it, put it in the chamber, let it cool in there under vacuum.
there. You might, I don't
I-
know, you
that's-
wouldn't be able to see any difference, I've never tried it, I don't,
Yeah, that's
I-
a question.
it wouldn't hurt nothing, I don't think, but I don't think it's gonna change the effect of the wood, because you're not gonna be able to see anything.
You know, if you wanted,
To make sure you
Process
got
that.
all the moisture out,
yeah, that would pull the rest of any other moisture and prevent any.
basically boil it off.
Yeah,
I don't know, I've never heard anybody doing that, I've never tried it, I just let it cook, and I go from there, I've not had any trouble. There's 2 pieces of wood. I'd like to get them back, I'm gonna make some pens out of it. This one here, That's not been stabilized. That has.
You
Feel
can
the
tell by the
difference.
weight difference, yeah.
That one is, how many grams? I got it written on there.
34.29,
And that's what?
74.8.
Almost double the weight. Half the weight's in plat, is in the resin. Now, when you turn that,
Appreciate it.
it becomes smooth as silk. That's a spalted piece of wood, you won't get any kind of tear out.
The finish good too.
Hmm?
Your
And it
finish good.
finished very well. That piece that Charles had, that so smooth, he's got another piece, here,
Yeah. Pass that around.
here's one he's currently working on. Feel how smooth that is.
Yeah.
That's only the 600, what, 600 grit?
Yeah.
You can cut threads in that.
I'll see.
And I like that, what he was saying about doing that. But, I mean, the big key, like Pat, what I thought Pat was gonna say, can I just put it into the tank with the resin? You're just gonna put a 220 piece wood in the resin.
No,
It's gonna go dank, and you not only lost the resin, you probably lost your tank too. Your chamber's probably gone.
No, I was not putting resin in there.
That's what I thought you were gonna
No,
have.
no, putting the piece in there as
Don't
a
do that.
no moisture environment.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's a vacuum, there's no moisture by definition.
And it got, excuse me if I miss a couple steps on compared to your handout, because this is the first time I've done a demo. Can't tell, I'm just a little nervous. Here, 2 pieces of elm that's been dried in the oven, okay? We're gonna pretend we're stabilizing these right now, okay? They're cool, out of the oven, dry. Gonna put them in the tank. It doesn't really matter which way you put them. That's end grain, the other way was cross grain, or side grain. Put your little weight, and I hope this is enough weight, 'cause I didn't bring any more with me to hold that down. I want it underneath the resin, okay? I'm hoping that's enough. If not, I'll stick that on top, leave it there. Take your resin, in this case, the water. It's old in town. Cover that wood. Okay? You don't take your fist when you're done. Take your, you can put more resin there if you want it. Keep it about fist width from the top. In a second, you'll see why you do that. Remember, you don't want to suck resin into your pump. Let's see if don't ever start your pump with your valves open or closed. In a second, you'll kind of see why, okay? Now, on this system, it's different. I've got this set up different than Charles does. Basically, you really don't need more than 1 valve. I put 2 valves on it because I didn't want to take the chance of getting any resin back into my pump. I released my vacuum with this one, not the one that's hooked to. Get your pump going, slowly start it, take the pressure. Yeah, it's 15, see it bubbling? That's 25. See that? Kind of regulate that with your valve. If that was resin, if I'd have gone up that high, that stuff, my hose right here would be full. That's the air coming out, that's the air going from high pressure to low pressure. You're not sucking it out, you're not boiling it out. It's just changing pressure to air pressure. And V and a couple potato chips go float. it really doesn't matter which way you put your wood in the tank, because the air's gonna come out. It's probably best end grain in vertical position, because it will come out through the end grain. It's not gonna matter though, it'll come out the sides more, than you see, if you can see, I don't know if you can, with the light, maybe
Yeah, that's a good thing.
you can see a little bit coming out the end, the side grain. You can see a little bit coming out the side grain, but most of it's coming out the end grain. And I can actually open it up pretty good right now. That's only because it's water. I mean, if this wasn't water, you'd still be, just that thing, those bubbles would be up to here. Okay? You have to run this until it's done bubbling. Period. No bubbles. After about an hour or two, maybe 3, with the resin, those large bubbles you saw will settle down to where there's nothing. In about 30 minutes, you'll get to the point where you can leave this all the way open. But after that takes a couple hours, and then you'll get rid of the, most of the bubbles. Right now, these are close to champagne-style bubbles. Champagne-style bubbles, carbonation in a champagne glass, bottle, can of beer, a glass of beer. Okay? That is the moisture being sucked out of the wood. In several hours, you'll be down to just those bubbles, if there's any moisture left. The importance, again, of using dry wood eliminates the prop, that time it's in the tank. Okay? If you don't, there's times it takes 15 hours to quit. It's not unheard of. I've had mine go 12 hours. Not like 15, but I've had them go overnight. Now, what you were saying, Tom, about getting the pressure and then closing it off, shut the pump off, you can do that. Air's still kind of coming out, not as much. Why is it not coming out as much? Because the pressure is being equalized. Without the pump going and pulling the air out that's coming out of the wood, I still show 28.9 inches of mercury, but it's equalized now. You're not going to get any difference, okay? I turn this back on, and it starts right back up. But now I'm at 29.3 inches of mercury. Okay? So you just leave this as long as it takes. And don't worry about hurting the pump. I was saying earlier, some people feel that pump and they go, it's hot, I gotta turn that off, just let it run. You can hurt, they're built to take that. They're built, big HVAC units will take 24, 48 hours sometimes to get enough vacuum going down on them systems. They can take it. Here, Adam, come up and feel that. Already, it's only been what, 4 or 5 minutes? It's already getting warm. And it'll get to where you touch it, and you go, oh, that's not nice. It's not gonna burn you, but it's not nice. You let them go for whatever amount it takes. We obviously don't know the amount of time it's gonna take, but we're gonna let them run for a little while. I'm glad to see that thing worked and holding them down, because I put some lead shot in the thing, glued them in there so that it would help with the weight. Concerned about it. I don't usually do big blocks of wood like that, and don't usually have a problem being held down with just the steel. If you buy a commercial thing like Turntex makes, he's got a weight, not really a weight, it's a plastic thing that goes down inside, and it pushes out against the chamber and kind of locks in place.
How long does the leftover resin last once you mix it up?
Once it's activated, if it's left at room temperature, another key, year or two. I've used some 2 years later with no problem, it's fine. So, I mean, it's gonna last you a while. I've never had a bag.
Now, the other types of epoxy resin, can you use that as well?
In with the vacuum,
Yeah, use it
I've
as
never tried, I've never heard of it.
No, you can only do it when you're doing mold and you suck the bubbles out as a preliminary thing, and then you generally vacuum it on, pressure it on top of that, if you're making molds and cast and stuff. Epoxies have too high surface tension and too high viscosity to penetrate.
Probably wouldn't penetrate, no.
So the epoxy you use is thin, or
The resin
that you use.
is like water,
It's
thin as
water,
water,
yeah.
thin as water.
It cross-link polymerizes under heat, which is the
Right.
key to
The
the
epoxy generates its own.
The epoxy is probably too thick, like you said, the viscosity probably is not gonna penetrate the wood.
I know.
And we're gonna talk about dyeing some of the wood here a little bit, and even some of the dyes you can't use because it won't penetrate.
I know if you're making the epoxy blank, you get a pressurizer or pull a vacuum on it, pull the air bubbles out.
Well, I've heard of using acrylic or aluminum, like, not epoxy, but a mine.
Then you can do it with all,
You put it under pressure to
and it
keep
compresses
the bubbles from, blows the bubbles up, I guess, and keeps them from going down.
The squishes.
It squishes them down.
I've done a little bit of the casting, just kind of got in, started with that. But it's still bubbling, you can see it's still bubbling pretty good. And it'll go on for several hours to get all that air out of there, but we're not gonna wait. Now we're at the state of taking, or the step of taking these things out.
You know, Total Vote makes a penetrating epoxy. It's like a two-part. Just wondering if that would work for
I
that.
don't think, I can't say for sure it would, but I would say no. I'd have to say off the top of my head, no.
Yeah, because it chemically sets up.
It probably sets too fast to actually penetrate.
It probably depends on what sort of solvent is being used, because the cactus juice that John uses, that I use, doesn't put out solvent that can get pulled into your vacuum and cause it to freeze up.
Good point. Good point. When you're using an epoxy in there, it probably would. You'd probably get vapor sucked into the pump. And it would not be good. It wouldn't be very friendly to the pump. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna turn the pump off. Again, you didn't have the valves open when you turned it on for a different reason, but for this reason, we're also gonna close that valve. Why are we gonna close the valve? Any idea? Anybody? Come on, scientists.
Let's slurp it in.
Basically, yeah, when you turn this off, what's on the other side of that pump? 0 inches
Atmospheric
of mercury.
pressure.
Okay, if that valve is open, it can get sucked right back down into your pump. If you got low pressure over here, or you got low pressure here and high.
Probably is, yeah.
But that's why, for safety's sake and for my peace of mind, I put another valve on here. There's another reason why you'll find some tanks with 2 valves, but we're not. That's used for processing oils out of some type of plants. Okay. See there, you see the water level drop a little bit? That's the water going into the wood. It dropped probably ½ inch. I've seen it drop faster than that. Sometimes you'll go, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. Because if it goes below the level of the blanks, the blanks are not necessarily worthless, but you're gonna have to start the process all over. Because the space that was above the line of resin is gonna be, you're gonna have air sucked in there instead of the resin. You'll have to just start, just put the lid back on, put some resin, put the lid back on. Since this is water, I'm not gonna worry about using gloves.
Nice job.
but I ordered some just so that I can say I was safe and have.
Nice job.
Got glasses too, but I wouldn't wear them today because it's only water.
It'll take you a while to dry that wood.
Yeah, see, and I didn't leave these in there long enough.
Floating.
They're floating. Okay?
So what percent?
These still had a lot of air in them. I'd have had to go a long time to get all the air out of these, okay? Because these normally wouldn't float. These would just sit on the bottom, but they floated. That's not good. That means they gotta go back in. Normally what I would be putting it back in, but I wouldn't have stopped the process here at this point either. So. But you can feel them already, they're heavy. They're heavier when they went in. Which I'll just leave in there for right now. It's kind of freaking me out there, they're cracking.
Is that the board cracking, or is
I
that
don't know
the
if
glass? Like echoing off?
No, it's not the glass. I'm seeing the cracks on glass. It's probably just the wood. What you do now, before you put them in the oven, basically you take some foil, got some foil here somewhere. You mentioned wrapping them in foil, now's when you wrap them in foil.
That's what I meant.
Huh?
That's what I meant.
For the curing process.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I didn't mean wrap them, putting it in there. And before you put them in the oven, you wrap it.
Right, not for drying, but for now, for curing.
Right.
You wrap these up, so you
Yep, you see what I do?
wrap them like that, put your next one in. And what I'll even do at this point, use my finger to just wipe everything off of the squeegee. Wrap them up. Put them in that toaster oven at 200 degrees, however long it takes. Shoot, most of the time, a piece of wood like this, I'd give it an hour and a half, just to be on the safe side. Okay. One thing I didn't explain before I took these out, you gotta make a note of how much time this is under vacuum, okay? If it takes 8 hours to get all the air bubbles out, all the air out of the wood, double that, and that's how long they need to soak in the resin. It takes a lot longer to get the resin into the wood than to get the air out. Just let them soak, not gonna hurt it, leave it overnight, just make sure that the resin, the level stays above the line. So I wouldn't even have removed this, I'd have just let it sit and add more resin. Take my first demo, so I just kinda skipped the steps. But that's pretty much it. You put these in the oven, in an hour and a half, I take them out and start to unwrap them. If you see any liquid resin in the foil, because it will leak out, the process of them curing will force some of the resin out of the wood. If you see any liquid resin inside that foil, wrap them immediately back up, stick them in the oven. It cures or it don't cure. If you see any liquid resin, it's not cured in the middle or on the outside. It's that quick, it happens it happens that fast. But if you see any liquid resin, it's not done. Put it back, don't wait for, I'm not a chemist. Curtis at Turntex, he started explaining to me at SWAT last year, and he got 2 involved. I said, no, I don't need to know it, I just know to put it back together. If you wait in like an hour and they start to cool back down, you put it back in the oven, you get a phone call and go off, or your wife calls you, you go in the house, come back, it's too late. Throw them in the trash. They will not cure.
Now, when you put them in the oven, you can put them in there for longer than 1 or 2 hours.
Sure.
Indefinitely, if you
You
want.
can put them in overnight,
Yeah.
however, it's not gonna matter.
If you're on the safe side, if you're saying 2 hours, you probably give it 30.
Sure. It ain't gonna hurt. Go ahead, Charles.
I was gonna say, pass around that one that's,
This one?
yeah, that's how they come out after they've cooked. You can see
You
that's
see the
normal.
the cured resin on the outside.
Yeah, see the impressions of the foil.
You can still see some foil on them, then you will. I unwrap them pretty quick, and your hands, it gets pretty warm. Here's some here that I done, and I'll pass these around now, but these I done with some dye and that is where, that's kind of the science of it, and the artwork comes in with the coloring and how you doing? Charles has been trying to get some, he's been struggling, I've been struggling. Here's some blanks that, this first one is a piece of cinnamon that was kind of spalted, and I'll explain that process here in a little bit. This is a piece of Hawaiian llama wood that it was done, and also with color. Now I don't have a clue what that piece of wood was, but I'm kind of interested in the figure on it when I turn it. Now again, you wouldn't waste this, but that looks like potato chips dissolved, so let's go that way.
Now, the crystalline that happens to your wood like that, that's just where you put it back on there and you just turn that off. And you can
Oh yeah, it comes right off. It comes right off. And Charles, with that piece he had, he told me, and he hollowed it out, turned the inside out, then he stabilized it. If you have a piece of wood that you're going to put into a chamber to cast it and fill in a void or an impingage on the wood, a bark impingage or something, you don't necessarily want to wrap it in foil. You want to turn it in your oven with that hole, appendage or void facing downward. So when that heats and it cures and it forces the resin out, if you have it wrapped in foil, it's going to fill them holes. And then you're going to have to either pick them out or just do something else. You let the resin drip out as it's curing. When it cures, that you still have them voids to do the casting. Now, again, if you don't, what would you do? What would happen if you took them 2 blocks, put them in the oven without wrapping them in foil like that? When that cures, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to have a drip pan under there, so anything that drips out, you'll catch. But that is going to be one block of wood, not 2. Because when it cures all at one time, and it's stronger than any wood, tight bond wood you know. You can't separate. One block of wood.
Are you going to wrap that in aluminum or you can loose that?
I just hand tight. It's not really super tight. Dyeing wood. This part's going to go quick because I don't know a whole lot about it. I'm learning and I'm trying it. You have to dye wood. The process seems real easy. I've been trying it for a week or so now, but it's not. Lord mercy, it's not. You cannot use any kind of a. You have to use a 100% liquid dye. There's one company that makes it. They make it for Alumilite and they make it for turntable. It's 100% liquid dye. There's one company that makes it. Now they might make it under their name, but they make it under for Alumilite and they make it under turntable. They kind of put their label on it. You can't use Alumilite to glow in the dark dyes, powdered dyes, white dyes. Because those got what's called a pigment, immersion pigment. It's got particles that float, will not be brought into the wood. The wood will filter them out. Can't use Pearlex. That's here, Pearlex. Metallic powders. Can't use it. Inlays. Stuff you buy to use with their acrylics, forget it. This is from Craft Supply, artisan wood dye that you would take a brush and use it and put on the outside of a bowl or something. Can't use it for stabilizing. It will not be absorbed into the piece of wood. It will stay on the outside. It'll look pretty when you take it out of the oven, cut it open. It's not a gold maybe. That's it. The other ones that I passed around, there's several ways of doing it. If you just want to do one color, take it and just stabilize it. Use the colored resin just to stabilize it, like you would normal. Here's a yellow that's not strong enough. I'm going to have to make it stronger. The key to stronger resin, the darker the resin. If you see the color you like, add a couple more drops of color to it. This is a green. That was pretty dark, but I would probably still add another drop or 2 to that. And that's a violet. That's the resin, what we call it, with the diamonds. Okay. If you're gonna do a two-color block of wood, take the one color, let's say you take I don't have the color, so you take the blue, let it just sit in a tray. Get your little plastic tray, about this deep, weight your blank down, submerge your blank, and you will see it, you'll see bubbles start to come out. Again, dry blank. It'll just, by capillary action, it will start to fill the blank. It'll start filling the wood. Okay? Now, if you want to do two colors, take that blank at that time. When you're done, it may take a couple hours so you're happy. It's experimentation, guys. It's what art's about. Some of the artists, they come into the innovation to try and try over and try over and try over. If you take it out of there, wrap it in foil, cook it until it's done. Take it back out, put it into your tank with another color of resin, vacuum it again until the air's covered. Whatever air is left comes out. It's in another color dye, rebake it. Technically what should happen, and I don't know if I've done it yet or not, I gotta take them blanks and try and turn them, is you'll get the green and the yellow, and then you'll get a combination of the two. What's green and yellow make? I don't have a clue. Blue, so you'll get green, blue and red make green.
Blue and yellow make green.
Yellow and green make whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, I don't care.
Yellow make green.
I don't care. This other piece of wood, what's very interesting, if you get a piece of wood like this, vaulted,
Could use a little bit.
those can almost be like you take that piece of wood, take a little tray, I'm gonna do this because I'll just waste it out a little bit and I'll throw it away. Some of that violet dye, the resin, pour it in the tank, take that blank and sit it like that. Just sit it there. You can already see it, you can come up in a minute and see it. The resin's being sucked up through the end grain in that blank. By capillary action, it's just working its way up. You might see it on camera, I don't know, probably not. It's already half an inch up. What happens is that fungus that's in them fault lines will block the resin. You might get a little bit past it, a little bit, but for the most part, it will block that resin. You can see it's already.
There's one hide in cooling, you get less resin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the thing, and you have to keep it up. But it's already, you can see it, it's already over here,
Oh, yeah.
okay? It'll get sucked up into there. All right, now if you're really good at doing this, you'll take a different color. Yeah, a little bit more. Get a different color. Come from that end. So now you got purple and yellow that are getting sucked up into the wood. You're just not coating the outside of the wood. You're getting up in between the fibers and everything else. And then if you really want to get fancy, cook that. Put a third color in the tank. Before they match, and you get a third color in the middle. You don't tell them what you get. This is the art part of it. The science is the science. It all works the same. But the colors, that's where the art comes in. I've heard done, I've not tried it. Just take white blanks like ash. Okay? Don't just dry them out 100%. Put them in the tank, draw them to a vacuum for several hours without anything in it, with no resin. You know what do they call them things that they use in medical stuff to hold? Oh, I forget. Not a syringe.
Forceps, clamps.
No. To hold the liquid.
Oh.
Pipette.
Pipette. take 3 or 4 pipettes, put them in between your fingers, get different colored resins in them, quickly take them blanks out of the thing, put them on your piece of aluminum foil, start squeezing them things. The drips, as they hit the blank, will get sucked into the wood. And you'll get like a mushroom effect of that stuff hitting that wood, cure them. There's no telling what you're gonna do. I've not tried that one yet. I've got a bunch of pipettes. I'm gonna be trying that soon, after I get this other part of dyeing done.
Well, this is lateral, because I stabilize a lot of wood for knife scales. And, yeah, this is gonna be some experimentation going on with that.
I mean, I'm gonna put this in a plastic bag and maybe finish that one up at home. Let it soak up overnight.
Think about getting color gradients marching across the length of it.
I have seen some at
Actually
SWAT,
sets it up.
at Curtis's demonstrations, where these blanks are just amazing. Amazing, the colors. But that's done by people that have been doing it for years and know what they're doing.
I like the paresis for the
Yeah.
separated stuff that way.
That's about it. That's about all I got. It's enough and enough.